Welcome to the History in Focus channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this one. A bike fall or a scraped knee in the 1950s and 1960s meant one thing: mercurochrome. The bright red liquid was a staple in every medicine cabinet, applied without hesitation by mothers to clean cuts and scrapes. Compared to the stinging iodine, mercurochrome was almost a relief, even though it left the skin stained. It was the official childhood scar of the era. Riding in the back of a pickup truck was pure fun for many children in the 1950s and 1960s. Without seat belts or safety concerns, they simply held on tight and enjoyed the wind in their faces. Whether for a countryside ride or a trip into town, this scene was common and rarely questioned, reflecting a time with fewer rules and more freedom on the road. Sticking out your thumb on the side of the road was once a common way to travel for free. Hitchhiking was seen as a viable option for crossing cities or even the country, and many relied on the goodwill of strangers. Although not without risks, this practice was considered normal, especially among young adventurers seeking new experiences. A young woman relaxes while talking on a rotary dial phone, an essential item in baby boomer households. The wall-mounted device, common at the time, required patience to rotate the numbers. During this period, teenagers spent hours on calls, strengthening friendships and romances. With the rise of private lines, talking on the phone became a daily habit. Before cell phones and automatic dialing, making a call meant speaking with an operator. You just had to dial 0, and a polite voice would ask, "Number, please?" They manually connected calls by moving wires on huge switchboards. It was a time when communication depended on people, not machines, making each call a bit more personal. In the 1950s and 1960s, it was common for children to play outside without supervision, exploring entire neighborhoods by bike or on foot. Without cell phones for instant communication, the rule was to return home at sunset or when the streetlights turned on. The sense of freedom and adventure was part of childhood, creating strong friendships and fostering independence from an early age. Nothing was more classic in the 1950s and 1960s than drive-in diners. Customers parked, placed their orders through the window, and in just a few minutes, a waitress on roller skates appeared, balancing trays full of burgers, milkshakes, and fries. The fast and fun service became a symbol of youth culture, with music playing in the background and chrome cars shining under neon lights. In the 1960s, about 30% of families still received fresh milk at home, a custom that was once the main way to consume it. The milkman left returnable glass bottles at the door and collected the empty ones. With the rise of supermarkets and refrigerators, this service began to disappear, but it still survives in some regions with a reduced number of deliveries. Drive-in theaters were a huge success in the United States, offering a unique way to watch movies without leaving the car. Popular among families and young people, these open-air spaces were gathering spots for fun. Many brought blankets and snacks to enjoy the screening. In the 1950s and 1960s, this form of entertainment became a true symbol of American culture. Before concerns about advertising to children, candy cigarettes were sold as a fun way to imitate adults. Made of sugar or gum, they came in packaging that resembled real brands. Popular among kids, they were sold at newsstands and markets. At the time, smoking was seen as stylish, and these candies made the game even more realistic. With candy cigarettes, children pretended to smoke like the adults they saw on TV. They imitated the poses of movie stars, unaware of the dangers of smoking. Back then, smoking was a status symbol and appeared in commercials and cartoons. Today, these candies have almost disappeared, but for many, they still bring back memories of a childhood where everything seemed allowed. Before child car seats or seat belts were mandatory, car trips were very different. Kids played freely in the back seat, slept in the station wagon's cargo area, or even balanced on the dashboard. Safety wasn't a priority, and no one thought it was strange. It was a time of freedom on the road, but looking back today, it seems unimaginable. phone booths were essential for quick calls with coins. Before the internet and cell phones, the Yellow Pages were the main directory for business and residential contacts. This bulky book could be found in homes, offices, and even booths, making communication easier in an era when memorizing numbers was necessary. Some booths offered small seats, making long conversations more comfortable. In busy areas, lines formed, and people patiently waited their turn. Many businesses depended on these calls, and reporters, detectives, and travelers were frequent customers, making phone booth symbols of a time when communication required patience and planning. Before CDs and streaming, cassette tapes were the main way to carry music anywhere. Rewinding with a pencil to save battery, recording songs straight from the radio, and making personalized mixtapes were part of daily life. Choosing a specific track required patience, fast-forwarding, or rewinding until you found the exact moment of the desired song. Jukeboxes were the heart of diners and soda shops of the time. With just a few coins, teenagers could choose their favorite songs, creating the perfect atmosphere for dancing and socializing. These machines, full of lights and buttons, became symbols of 1950s and 1960s youth culture, driving the popularity of rock and pop while bringing friends together around music. Record parties defined youth in the 1960s. Friends gathered at homes to listen to the hits of the time on portable record players, dance, and have fun. Rock and pop dominated these gatherings, which needed nothing more than good music and space to dance. It was a social ritual where new trends, dance moves, and even romances began. Soda fountains were the favorite hangout spots for teenagers. With their long counters, spinning stools, and lively atmosphere, these places served milkshakes, sodas, sundaes, and quick snacks. Many young couples had their first dates there, while jukeboxes played the hits of the time. For many, it was the perfect setting for socializing after school. In the late 1960s, the Jackson 5 broke out with I Want You Back, putting 11-year-old Michael Jackson in the spotlight. The group, made up of brothers Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael, brought contagious energy to pop and became a phenomenon among young people. Their unique sound and iconic choreography helped define the musical culture of the time. Before computers dominated offices, typewriters were essential for any administrative job. Their distinctive sound and the need for precision made typing a valuable skill. Electric models improved efficiency, but the frustration of fixing mistakes with correction tape or a special eraser was part of everyday work life. The hula hoop was one of the most iconic toys of the 1950s, selling millions of units in a short time. Created by Arthur Mellon and Richard Kinnear, it inspired challenges among kids and adults who trained to keep it spinning for as long as possible. Its success was so immense that it became a craze in backyards, schools, and TV shows, leaving a lasting mark on pop culture. During the Cold War, many families built nuclear fallout shelters in their backyards, stocked with canned food, water, and supplies. Some baby boomers may remember visiting one with their parents, believing they would be safe. However, the real chances of survival were minimal, as the effects of a nuclear explosion were widely underestimated at the time. Vacations in Florida meant sun, sea, and for many, the chance to see a NASA rocket launch. At the height of the space race, families crowded Cape Canaveral to witness historic takeoffs. Children with binoculars watched the sky, dreaming of the future. Many baby boomers grew up fascinated with space exploration, inspired by moments like these in NASA's golden years. The generation witnessed the tension of the Cold War as they watched John F. Kennedy announce the naval blockade against Cuba in 1962. Gathered in front of TVs, many felt for the first time the fear of nuclear conflict. Born after World War II, they grew up under the atomic threat, and the missile crisis marked their youth, showing that war could come close, even without direct battles. The GE alarm clock was an essential item in households in the 1960s and 1970s. With large numbers and a loud mechanical alarm, it was impossible to ignore. Before cell phones and digital clocks, This model sat beside beds in many families, ensuring no one overslept. Simple and reliable, it was part of the morning routine for years, marking the wake-ups of an entire generation. Before battery-powered watches, winding a watch was a daily ritual. These mechanical models required precision, and forgetting to wind them meant losing track of time. For many, owning a wristwatch was a sign of maturity, something common among young people of the time. Beyond functionality, these watches were seen as elegant accessories, durable, and often passed down from generation to generation. Before modern roller skates, children used metal skates that adjusted directly to their shoes. With a special key, the leather straps could be tightened and the size adjusted. Skating on sidewalks was one of the favorite pastimes of the 1950s and 1960s, and the distinctive sound of metal wheels against concrete still brings nostalgia to many who grew up during that time. In the 1960s, devices like the Audiotronic listening station allowed multiple young people to listen to music at the same time, using headphones connected to a record player. This technology was popular in schools and libraries, facilitating audio learning and group musical appreciation. For baby boomers, it was a new form of interaction, combining technology and pop culture. Smoking on airplanes was common until the late 20th century. For decades, passengers could light cigarettes, cigars, and even pipes on board, and some airlines provided lighters and ashtrays at the seats. Only in the 1980s did restrictions begin, with a total ban on international flights in the 1990s. Before that, smoke was part of the flying experience. In the 1960s and 1970s, bathrooms were not just functional, they were full of color. Shades like avocado green, blue, harvest gold, and brown dominated sinks, toilets, and tiles, all perfectly matching. This vibrant style was a trend of the time, bringing personality to homes. Today, these bathrooms are rare, but they still spark nostalgia for those who grew up in that era. Children gather around the television, a new attraction in American homes in the 1950s. The device, still a novelty, quickly became the center of family entertainment. Children's shows, cartoons, and series captured the attention of the little ones, while adults saw TV as a symbol of modernity. Over time, watching together became a daily ritual in many homes. The term latchkey kids emerged to describe children who came home from school to an empty house because both parents worked. This phenomenon grew in the 1940s during the war, when many mothers entered the workforce. The house key was either worn around their necks or hidden under a doormat, allowing them to enter alone until their parents returned. Swanson's TV dinners emerged in the 1950s, accompanying the popularization of television. The frozen meals were packaged in aluminum trays and ready to eat in front of the TV. The first release featured turkey, gravy, peas, and sweet potatoes, inspired by Thanksgiving dinner. Practical and affordable, TV dinners became part of many American families' routines. Inspired by the hippie movement, bell-bottom pants, fringes, and psychedelic prints emerged, blending freedom and counterculture. But there was also room for retro silhouettes, bringing a nostalgic touch by mixing the new with the classic. This diversity of styles reflected the search for a unique identity, representing the aspirations of an entire generation. Elvis Presley in the 1970s, dazzling in his iconic white jumpsuit and captivating crowds. His Las Vegas residency was one of the decade's biggest events, and any music fan knew that attending one of his shows was a unique experience. The generation that grew up listening to his early hits now saw him dominate the stage with the same energy as ever. In the 1960s, teenagers spent hours listening to Beatles records. The portable record player became part of daily life, and each album was eagerly awaited. As the music played, fans flipped through the covers, memorized the lyrics, and felt that something new was happening. British rock was not just sound, but a symbol of youth and pop culture. Beatlemania drove crowds into a frenzy. In packed concerts, fans screamed, cried, and reached out to the Beatles as if they could touch them. The phenomenon took over the baby boomer generation, who saw in the band more than just idols. They were the soundtrack of youth seeking freedom. Rock became a voice, uniting millions through the same sound and emotion. In the 1970s, chiffon margarine commercials became famous with the slogan, "It's not nice to fool Mother Nature." The campaign featured a woman playing Mother Nature, tricked into thinking the margarine was butter. When she discovered the truth, she became furious and summoned thunder. For many who grew up during that time, this creative and amusing ad was unforgettable. Before cell phones and digital cameras, developing photos was a ritual. Photomat kiosks allowed people to drop off their film without leaving their cars. In a few days, the printed photos were ready for pickup. In addition to developing film, these kiosks also sold camera accessories and film rolls, making them an essential part of photography at the time. Before plastic garbage cans with wheels, metal trash cans were common on sidewalks. Heavy and without ergonomic handles, they had to be carried to the curb. Over time, they rusted, developed holes, and made loud noises when emptied by collectors. Although durable, they were less practical and eventually gave way to the lighter, more resilient models used today. Sesame Street premiered in November 1969, revolutionizing children's TV by combining education and entertainment. Many grew up watching Jim Henson's Muppets, who brought characters like Cookie Monster, Bert, Ernie, and Kermit the Frog to life. The show used humor and repetition to teach letters, numbers, and values, becoming a landmark of childhood for multiple generations. The iconic Abbey Road album, released in 1969, marked the Beatles' farewell as an active band. The baby boomer generation followed every detail, making this cover one of the most famous in history. This billboard in Los Angeles reinforced the band's cultural impact, whose music influenced millions and defined the sound of an era that celebrated deep social and musical changes. The 1960s introduced curious household innovations, such as this portable vacuum cleaner, designed to make cleaning easier anywhere. The device was marketed as a practical solution, but its size and weight made it less viable. Despite this, inventions like these demonstrated the era's enthusiasm for new designs and the promise of a more modern and efficient future. In 1969, during the first Earth Day celebrations, children actively participated in the environmental movement. Armed with brooms, they helped clean park streets, promoting care for our planet. Earth Day has since become an annual reminder of the importance of environmental preservation, reinforcing the need to protect the only home we have. At the 1968 Olympics, Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised their fists in a Black Power salute, a moment that marked the baby boomer generation. As the U.S. national anthem played, the sprinters silently protested racial inequality, drawing worldwide attention. Many young people at the time were inspired by this act, which became a symbol of civil rights and the fight for social justice. Saturday Night Fever, released in 1977, defined the 1970s with John Travolta as Tony Manero. At 23 years old, Travolta became a disco icon, dancing to the sound of the Bee Gees. His performance in a white suit and with energetic moves conquered the dance floor, making the film a classic and turning disco dancing into a cultural symbol for an entire generation. In 1977, crowds packed theaters to watch Star Wars, unaware they were witnessing the birth of one of the greatest franchises in history. The impact was immediate. Fans returned multiple times to relive the adventure, and toys quickly disappeared from store shelves. Anyone who lived through that time remembers the magic of seeing the iconic John Williams opening score for the first time. When The Godfather hit theaters in 1972, it redefined cinema forever. Marlon Brando, as Don Vito Corleone, delivered such an iconic performance that his voice and gestures became part of pop culture. The unforgettable quotes and Francis Ford Coppola's masterful direction turned the film into an instant classic. Those who saw it upon release knew they were witnessing something monumental. Before the Walkman and headphones, transistor radios were inseparable from young people in the 1960s and 1970s. Small and portable, they allowed people to listen to music and sports broadcasts anywhere. For many baby boomers, this was their first personal electronic device, bringing the excitement of AM/FM radio directly into their hands before the digital era. Before major chains like Target and Walmart, 5 and dime stores were the go-to destination for affordable shopping. The first was created by Woolworths in 1879, selling everything from candy to household items. Popular for decades, these stores offered low prices and variety. Over time, prices increased, but some still exist, now known as dollar stores. Choc-Ola was a carbonated chocolate drink popular among children. Compared to Yoo-Hoo, it had a stronger chocolate flavor and needed to be shaken well before drinking. Sold in glass bottles, it was a different alternative to traditional sodas. Although it lost popularity over time, many still remember its unique and nostalgic taste. Before modern safety standards, infant car seats were very different. In the 1960s and 1970s, they were placed in the front seat, often secured with simple straps and lacking proper protection. The focus was on allowing parents to see their children while driving, with little concern for collisions. Today, this would seem unthinkable, but at the time, it was the common way to transport children. The 1970s marked the beginning of the video game industry, which began gaining popularity with the release of games like Pong. The success of arcade machines quickly turned them into gathering spots for young people who met in arcades to play the latest titles. This revolution not only popularized electronic games, but also laid the foundation for a multi-billion-dollar industry. S&H green stamps were one of the most popular loyalty programs in the United States in the 1950s and 1960s. Distributed in supermarkets and gas stations, the stamps were pasted into booklets and could be redeemed for products from an exclusive catalog. Many families collected stamps for months to obtain appliances, furniture, and toys. The spirit of the 1960s takes shape in this Volkswagen decorated with wrought iron, a symbol of creativity and the hippie movement. Young people celebrate freedom and peace, common expressions in the counterculture that defined the baby boomer generation. This photo, taken at an exhibition in Los Angeles, captures the energy of a transformative decade where art, protest, and lifestyle blended. John Lennon and Yoko Ono turned their honeymoon into a peace manifesto with the Bed In for Peace. For a week, they stayed in bed at a hotel, welcoming journalists and promoting messages against the war. With handwritten signs and interviews, they attracted global attention. Many young people were influenced by this ideal of peaceful protest. Lennon and Ono took their peace message beyond hotel rooms. During the holiday season, they funded billboards in 11 cities worldwide with the phrase, "War is over if you want it." The campaign reached thousands of people and became one of the most significant symbols of pacifist activism of the time, reflecting the spirit of change that defined the baby boomer youth. Before banking apps and digital statements, accounts were recorded in small passbooks. Every time a deposit or withdrawal was made, the teller manually updated the balance. Many parents opened accounts for their children as a way to teach them the importance of saving money. Losing this little book was a big problem since it was the only physical proof of the account balance. The military draft sent thousands of young Americans to Vietnam, many still in their teens. Draft notices arrived without warning, changing lives in an instant. While some accepted the call, others protested in the streets. The impact was long-lasting, leaving physical and emotional scars and permanently changing the public's relationship with the government and the military. The protest at Kent State University against the Vietnam War ended in tragedy when the National Guard opened fire, killing 4 students and injuring 9 others. The sight of young people running in panic became a symbol of political division in the U.S. The incident sparked national outrage, increasing opposition to the war and forcing debates about the use of force against student demonstrations. The 1972 Olympic basketball final between the United States and the Soviet Union was one of those moments that no one who watched ever forgot. The Americans had never lost an Olympic basketball game, but everything changed in a chaotic ending. 3 seconds were added to the clock after much confusion, and the Soviets scored the winning basket. Outraged, the U.S. players refused to accept the silver medal. Going to the movies in the baby boomer era often meant watching a double feature. For the price of one ticket, audiences saw 2 consecutive films, usually a major production and a secondary title. Even if both movies weren't great, the experience was worth it. For many, this tradition was part of weekends, making moviegoing even more special. Baby boomers witnessed one of the most iconic sports moments, the Miracle on Ice in 1980. At the Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, a team of young American college players defeated the feared Soviet team 4-3. In the midst of the Cold War, this unexpected victory became a symbol of national pride, with millions watching on TV and celebrating a triumph that seemed impossible. The fashion of the 1960s was bold and colorful, and nothing represented this trend better than the famous Pucci tights. Here, students from Corona Del Mar High School in California showcase extremely colorful Pucci tights, paired with short dresses and accessories of the time. This style reflected the Cultural Revolution and the influence of the mod movement, bringing freedom of expression and moving away from traditional norms. Hawaiian Punch was one of the most beloved drinks among children, known for its sweet and fruity flavor. Sold in metal cans, it had to be opened with a can opener, something quite different from today. A guaranteed presence at parties and picnics, this drink was a true symbol of childhood in the 1970s, becoming unforgettable for those who grew up during that era. In the early hours of June 28, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn bar in New York City, sparking a riot. The resistance led to days of protests, fueling the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement. It was with the baby boomer generation that this activism gained strength, inspiring the first Pride parades and solidifying Greenwich Village as a symbol of the fight for equality. On July 20, 1969, the world stopped to watch the Apollo 11 moon landing. In airports, bars, and store windows, crowds gathered around televisions to witness the historic event. Around 600 million people watched the live broadcast, making it one of the most memorable moments of the generation and a symbol of the country's space progress. Many grew up watching Bonanza, one of the most popular westerns on TV. Aired from 1959 to 1973, the series followed the Cartwright family and their adventures in the Old West. It was the first of its genre broadcast in color, making it even more captivating. For many families, Sunday nights were reserved for following the drama, duels, and family bonds at the legendary Ponderosa Ranch. Before his name appeared on pizza and popcorn boxes, Paul Newman was the pinnacle of elegance and charisma. Stars come and go, but few had his level of talent and style. With unforgettable blue eyes and a magnetic presence, he shined in classics like Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid. For those who grew up watching his films, he will always be the coolest guy of all time. On Saturday nights in the 1960s, the Hollywood Palace was one of the most popular variety shows on American TV. Aired on ABC, it featured a rotating lineup of hosts and acts ranging from comedians to big-name musicians. With an elegant stage and unforgettable performances, the show was a highlight of programming and remains in the memories of many. There was something special about watching The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Mary Tyler Moore was not just funny, she was different. She wore pants when few women on TV could, so much so that producers limited it to one scene per episode. For those who grew up in the 1970s, she represented a new era where women could be independent, successful, and above all, in control of their own destiny. When Saturday Night Live premiered on October 11, 1975, no one imagined it would become a comedy icon. With George Carlin as the host and a cast featuring Chevy Chase, John Belushi, and Gilda Radner, the show quickly won over audiences. Mixing political satire, sketches, and live music, the program became a Saturday night tradition and remains strong to this day. In the 1960s and 1970s, sit-ins became a powerful form of protest among young people. Whether against the Vietnam War or in support of the civil rights movement, students occupied public spaces to demand change. The baby boomer generation grew up witnessing and participating in these peaceful demonstrations, which defined an era of activism and social transformation in the United States. In the 1970s, The Dick Cavett Show stood out among late-night talk shows with its intelligent interviews and relaxed conversations. Aired on ABC, it attracted major names from film, music, and politics. Unlike other shows of the genre, Cavett delved deeper into topics and allowed longer, more sophisticated dialogues, making it a favorite for those seeking something beyond traditional TV humor. Rolling Stone was more than just a music magazine. It was a counterculture icon. Its reports covered rock, politics, and social issues, capturing the rebellious spirit of the era. With iconic covers and in-depth interviews, it influenced generations looking for something beyond the conventional. For many young people, owning a copy of Rolling Stone meant staying connected to what truly mattered. It was the ultimate sign that the night was over. When the last show ended, TV stations went off the air, displaying test patterns or just static on the screen. Many networks signed off with the national anthem or patriotic messages before total silence. For those who grew up during that time, it marked the end of the fun and the reminder that the next day was just around the corner.